Alrighty. I think we should go ahead and begin since there's quite a few slides here and we have less than half an hour. My name is Scott and it's good to see you guys. If questions come up as I go through the slides, just shout out and I'd be happy to address those. What we're talking about today, obviously, can everyone see the screen share first of all? We're just going to be discussing dissertation formatting. And let's get started. So, to begin with, the place that you can find most of this information, if you were not aware of it, is at this address here, Library Clearance. This takes you to our Dissertation Information Center, basically. And I'll show you what that looks like over here. If you're at the library homepage and you go to Services, Submitting your dissertation, then that's how you get there. So this has a list of contacts for each campus. These are the people who are in charge of dissertation clearance at each location. And then under the tabs, we have Submitting to the library, which is an overview of the whole submission process. Under Formatting, Manual, and Forms, that's where you can find the dissertation manual at Alliant. And also further down, you can find the old PDF clearance form if you would like to use that. The newer method, which is highly recommended, is to go through the clearance process using DocuSign. This way, people don't have to print out the clearance page and then take a picture of it or scan it and send it to the next person. Everyone just gets the ability to sign electronically. Further down is the dissertation cataloging form. This is just a Word document that you fill out. You don't need anyone else to sign it. And this helps us describe your dissertation once we enter it into our system. And then down here is the template, which we just heard is being a bit difficult at the moment, but we will get that looked at. Next tab on our site is going to give you general information about like the most important parts of 7th edition APA style for dissertation purposes. So a lot of people are trying to learn APA so they can submit to journals, and the information here won't necessarily be what you're looking for in that case. And next tab is Submitting to ProQuest. So this is, I'll just jump back here for a second. So I said that this initial tab describes the submission process. One of the steps that's listed here is to go to this tab. So this is actually this is one of the steps in the process. And what you do is read through all this stuff, and there's also a tutorial that shows you what you're about to start doing. And then you can click on Agree, and it walks you through the process of entering information into ProQuest about your dissertation. One of the steps will be for you to, like you'll list all your committee members and what the dissertation's about, stuff like that. And then one of the steps is to upload the PDF. And it doesn't go directly to ProQuest and automatically go live into the system. It first goes to library staff to review, and we review it. If any revisions are necessary, we let you know about those and send it back to you. And it continues to, sorry about that. It continues to go through that kind of loop until the dissertation looks good to the library staff person. And at that point, we can approve it and clearance goes over to the registrar. And then the last tab on our information center here is a list of editors. These are just people that we know about that have asked to be on this page. We don't recommend anyone in particular, but most of them work remotely also. This used to be organized by a campus, but just about all of these people can do their work by email, so it doesn't really matter where they are. Okay. So again, that's our Library Clearance Information Center. So you can find a lot of what we're going to talk about in there. To start off with, let's look at the basics of APA style for Alliant dissertations. including line spacing, margin size, typeface, fonts, headings, tables, and figures. And just to make it like super clear and repetitive, most of what I'm talking about is in the Alliant Dissertation Style Manual, so you can always refer back to that if something slips your mind. So as far as line spacing, we want it double spaced, even for references. Margins are going to be 1 inch all around. Let me get this out of the way. And just pay attention to this note. Sometimes Word defaults to 1 1/4 inches on the left and right margins, so you're going to make sure you double check that. Typeface and fonts. Starting with 7th edition, APA style allows sans serif fonts such as the following. Also serif fonts like 12-point Times New Roman, which is by far the most common font to be used. Headings. These are one of the things that changed somewhat in APA 7th edition. The main points to remember that headings of equal importance are given the same heading level. You don't have to use all the heading levels that exist, which is like 5 or 6 of them, I think. You only use as many heading levels as you need. And if a section can be divided into 2 or more subsections, then each of those would get a heading also. Keeping in mind the purpose of the headings is just to make it easier to navigate the whole document. Alrighty. And here are some examples from the dissertation manual about what headings look like in 6th edition versus 7th edition. So the first level is this centered one. The second level goes to the left and is in bold. Has uppercase and lowercase capitalization. Third level is pretty much the same, but it's also italicized. And then the fourth level, not italicized, and also indented. And you can notice as well that instead of it being a heading on its own line, the text starts right after that one. The level 5 headings are like the level 4 ones, except italicized. Usually, like most dissertations, I think stick with levels 3, 2, and 1. And occasionally there might be a level 4 heading. That's not to say that you can't go ahead and use level 5. It's just, please don't feel the need to. Tables and figures. This is another area that had some changes in 7th edition. Okay. Let's see. So tables and figures are going to be numbered consecutively, table 1, table 2, etc. And you insert that immediately after they are first mentioned in the text. If they're going to break across like a page break, then you can just put them on the following page if you need to, because it's really difficult to read tables or figures if they're cut in half. Notice that tables have no vertical lines and that all columns have a heading, even the far left column. And sometimes there's confusion about what is a figure. So it can be something that's a graph, chart, map, drawing, photograph. Basically anything that's not regular text and not a table is probably a figure. All right, so moving into the dissertation itself, preliminary pages are just the handful of pages that come at the beginning of the dissertation. So it includes the very first page, which is the title page, and it runs through these are just the topics I'm going to talk about, but the preliminary pages go all the way up until just before page 1 of chapter 1. So on the title page, you want to make sure you don't have a running head or page number display on the title page. And you do want to include your committee member names down here. And except for the degree and campus, this block of text is pretty standard. Your name, the year. Usually this is the year that you're submitting the dissertation in. So even if you did like all of the work in 2020, but you're going to submit it in January 2021, then you would put 2021 there. Yeah. Running head. Do we have an example of this anytime soon? So running head is the thing that goes up here, and it's like an abbreviated version of the title. Yeah, as it says right here, Scott, good job. It has a maximum of 50 characters, so it's most likely not going to be the entire title. The running head should be in all caps. You don't want to put in running head, colon. You just put in the actual words from the title where they go. It should be within the 1-inch margin, not below it, on the same line as the page number. And that would be approximately 1/2 to 3/4 inch from the top edge of the paper. And you include the running head on all pages except the title page. In Word, there's a way to, if you go into like the preferences or settings for page numbers, you can tell it to use a different first page. Also something an editor should know how to do off the top of their head. More about page numbering. The preliminary pages use lowercase Roman numerals, which look like this. Little I, 2 little i's, 3 little i's, and so on. However, the first page, which is the title page, it's assumed to be lowercase Roman numeral I, but it shouldn't be visible. So the page after the title page has lowercase Roman numeral 2. Then once you get to the body of the dissertation, starting on page 1 of chapter 1, you switch to Arabic numerals, and that continues on through the appendices also. Abstract. For this, obviously it's a brief summary of your dissertation. Try to keep it relatively short, from 250 to 350 words. There isn't a hard limit on it, but that's a good rule of thumb to follow, particularly because if you submit to journals later on, they do have hard limits on how many words the abstract can be. You format it just like a paragraph in the rest of the dissertation, and you also don't need to include keywords in your dissertation abstracts. They used to ask for this a long time ago, but now once you're uploading your dissertation to ProQuest, one of the steps is where you enter in keywords in their own little text box, so they don't have to be on the abstract. Table of contents. So this includes the titles of major sections of the document, appendices. You include uppercase Roman numerals with the chapters. So chapter, Roman numeral, great. Roman numeral 1 is an uppercase I there. And then once you get to the appendices, those are sequenced with letters A, B, C, D, and so on. So appendix A, appendix B, etc. Another part of the preliminary pages is a list of tables and a list of figures, if you have them. If you don't have any tables in your dissertation, you just would not include a list of tables. These appear separate from the table of contents, and they include the table or figure number, its full name, and the page number that it's on. Alrighty. So any questions on the preliminary pages? Otherwise, I'll keep rolling on here. Great. Switching over to in-text citations. In the body of the dissertation, we use the author date method. And we'll also look at how to format these in-text citations for different kinds of authors and what to do with block quotes. The author date method, like it sounds, just asks you to make an in-text citation that includes the last name of the author and the date of publication. And by date, we just mean year, not month and day. So, like the formulaic version, like the most traditional, is the second one here. Many doctoral students find dissertation writing both daunting and exhilarating. Martinez, 2015. Depending on how you're just handling these things stylistically, you can also rearrange it to do something like the first example. So if you mention the author's name in the sentence, then you don't have to include it again in the in-text citation. That's why the parenthetical here just has the year in it. People like to kind of alternate or mix up the way they do it just for variety's sake, so it doesn't become so boring. So you might see a citation like this, and then the next one like this, and so on. So this table shows you how to handle in-text citations of sources that have different numbers of authors. So if it's one author, that's pretty straightforward. Two authors, we use the ampersand to separate their last names. Three or more authors, we use et al, which is a Latin abbreviation for like and so on, basically. This is the in-text citation. Keep in mind, once you get to the bibliography, that will list out all the authors, up to a limit of 20, I believe, which is what this little asterisk is going to remind us. If you have a group author, like an organization or something like that, then for the first citation, you spell out the name of it, along with the abbreviation. And then for citations to the source after that, you can just use the abbreviation with the year. Sorry, my voice is giving out. If you have a group author where there is no relevant abbreviation, like Stanford University, people are accustomed to just writing that out rather than saying SU. For that, you would not have the option of abbreviating it. You just write the whole thing out every time. Block quotes. Block quotes are what you use when you're using a direct quotation that's 40 words or more in length. And the reason for doing that is just to make clear that these are somebody else's words rather than yours. If you don't set them off in a block quote, then they tend to blend in with the rest of the text. For the block quotation, you're going to indent the whole thing by 1/2 inch. And you put the punctuation before the parentheses, not after. So down here at the end of the block quote, it says therapy, period, and then the parentheses. Ordinarily, it would be the opposite, where you would have therapy, parentheses, and then the period would be at the very end outside. But not here. Moving on. References. So this is the bibliography. So we'll talk about bibliography entries for periodicals, books, book chapters, and electronically retrieved sources. And we pick these because they're the most commonly used types of material. The capitalization of titles. Most titles use sentence case capitalization, which means only the first word of the title and the first word of the subtitle, if any, and proper nouns are capitalized. So in this example, what it means by subtitle is anything after the colon, if there is a colon. So the first word of the title, in this case it's S for sleep, And the first word of the subtitle, S for seeking, those are capitalized, but nothing else because they're not proper nouns. If you're like the opposite of sentence case capitalization is title case capitalization. All the words except like prepositions and things like that, or articles, or not articles, whatever this is, connectors. So words like and or in are not capitalized, but everything else has the first letter capitalized. You'll see both of these in different places in the bibliography. So let's look at what the examples are. For the title of the article, we're using sentence capitalization, but for the title of the periodical, we're using the other one, title case capitalization. It's totally arbitrary. There's no like reasoning that I can really provide to you, but once you get used to it, it's kind of second nature. You've probably come across DOIs. At this point, they are pretty universal. These are digital object identifiers, which is a unique set of numbers and letters, sort of like an ISBN for a book, except this identifies a particular article or might be a book chapter. Not everything that you use is going to have a DOI. There's always a few like strange articles that just don't have them, or it might be something like a white paper that you found online that's not necessarily going to have one. If there is one, you're supposed to include it in the reference list. But if there isn't one, then obviously just don't. Formatting has changed for these over time, but in 7th edition APA, the preferred method is to have them just look like this. So the https://doi.org / that part will always be the same. The part that will vary from article to article is where the numbers start here. So again, if there is a DOI, include it. If there's not, move on, carry on with your life. Don't worry about it. Books. So bibliography citations for books. This is kind of the template. The title of a book uses sentence case capitalization. So only the first letter of the first word in the sentence and the first word in the, the first word in the title and the first letter of the first word in the subtitle are capitalized. And these examples make it pretty clear, especially this one, which does have a subtitle. And excuse me. Here's, this one's actually an error. The psychology should be scooted over to line up with this hanging indent. Of course, if I try to do it now, it's going, it actually worked. That's good. I thought we would have a Microsoft freak out where it changes the formatting of everything in the whole presentation, but it's my lucky day, I guess. Next, we have book chapters. These are a little more complicated than books, obviously, because they include, first of all, the title of the chapter with sentence capitalization. And then you have this section here that says in. You list all the editors and the abbreviation editors. And then you list the title of the book, italicized, in sentence capitalization. After that, you list the pages that the chapter covers, and then the name of the publisher. Used to be you would also need the location of the publisher, but they got rid of this because it was not very useful at all. And here is just an example that has everything filled in. Electronic sources. We have the author, the year, title of the work, italicized with sentence capitalization, name of the website, if it's different from the author. So like if you're citing a story on CNN, then, and it gave you the byline of the author, you would put the author's name here, like Wolf Blitzer or something. And the website name then would be cnn.com. And then at the very end, you put the URL. No longer need to do the retrieved on unless it's somehow relevant to the source. Got a source that stumps you? Check the APA style website and blog. So I usually don't check these directly. I wind up I Google what the problem is that I'm trying to figure out as far as citations, and it will usually have search results in the first couple of Google results to this APA website and blog. They comment on things that are emerging issues that didn't necessarily get covered in the most recent edition of the style manual, or interpretations that might not be official but are sometimes the best we have to go on. So it's a good thing to check this when you are stumped by a citation issue. What if the APA style manual and the Alliant formatting manual say different things? It depends. There are certainly places where the dissertation formatting guidelines are different from APA. This says if you have questions, contact your dissertation clearance person. That's good advice. I would say that in most cases, the Alliant dissertation manual is going to overrule APA style, because the faculty that wrote the manual decided that the APA style manual is mainly for publication in journals and chapters in books, so it's not designed for dissertations. That's why the Alliant manual exists, because we have our own requirements. So definitely check with the library dissertation clearance person, but in most cases, you're going to wind up following the Alliant manual rather than APA. If you have questions, you can always contact the library clearance person, like I just said, or you can reach out to us via chat or email. And I'm happy to, I see we're exactly out of time right now, but if there are questions, I'll hang around as long as I'm allowed to.
I have a really stupid question, Scott.
I doubt that.
It's just that when I entered the room, I indicated it was okay about recording. Is this going to record on my end, or do I need to go to the dissertation toolbox to access today's recording?
That is a good question. The meeting was initially set up by Amber, so she made me host, but I don't think I have access to the recording. My understanding is that it's recorded so it can be eventually posted on the Student Hub, and then you'd be able to access it there. But once she gets back in the office, I think she's out on a family issue right now, she'll be able to let you know how to access it.
Okay, I'll reach out and appreciate it.
Yeah. And I can send out these slides too if anyone is interested in those.
Yes,
If you are, yeah, if you are, just send me a quick email.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested in the file.
Okay. So just send an email to library@alliant.edu and I can send the slides.
Okay, thank you.
Good. And then this slide that I'm showing right now is just a summary of some of the major changes in 7th edition, mostly for your reference. Any other questions? Again, just email library@alliant.edu, and that goes directly to me, so I'll send you the slides. All right. I think I'll wrap up the recording then. I appreciate everyone taking the time to check in on this, and please let me know if we can be of any assistance. Have a nice weekend.